Okay, well, we're a little bit late to the game here, but we thought we'd do a quick review of The Tragedy of Macbeth, which is directed by Joel Coen, stars Denzel Washington, Frances McDormand, and then a whole host of character actors that we've seen on stage and screen, including people like Brendan Gleeson. Just so many.
As Duncan.
As Duncan. It's not a tricky one to review in terms of the story. The story obviously is the same.
Yeah.
It's just it's the treatment and the execution that we're going to talk about.
Yeah. What happened with this film as well, can I just sort of,
Yes.
to go back a minute, is that we saw the trailer, didn't we?
Yeah.
We both saw the actual film separately, but the trailer was so stunning visually that I think it took, I mean, I'm a huge Shakespeare, I'm a Shakespeare person gone mad.
Oh, I love him.
But yeah, as is Mark. But just to forget whether it was Shakespeare or not, the visualness, the visual look of it was so stunning in its
I was getting a lot of Orson Welles vibes.
That's what I mean, yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely. And,
So-
and for me, it had all the things, I mean, it was Shakespeare. It's almost my favourite play, not Hamlet's my favourite, but it's
Yeah.
the simplest in the way of exposition.
Yeah.
And it's dynamic.
And it's full of
Denzel,
jealousy,
I adore.
intrigue. Yeah, Denzel.
Frances McDormand, who doesn't love her? As somebody said, she's been waiting to play Lady Macbeth forever.
And
We've
Joel
been waiting
Coen
with her.
directing, her husband. One of the Coen brothers.
What could go wrong?
What not to like?
Well, all I can say is it did for me.
It did what?
Go wrong.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Well, I'm intrigued. Okay, well, let me say what I liked about it.
Yeah, do.
I was surprised by Denzel Washington.
I was, but not in a good
Oh,
way.
right, okay. Now, I was surprised by Denzel Washington. I thought Frances McDormand was brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought, as Lady Macbeth.
Yeah.
I really liked...
What about the witches?
Well, I thought the witches were great, but of
Because
course...
it was a witch.
It was one witch, wasn't
Yeah,
it? Whatever it
Kathryn
was.
Hunter.
Yeah, and she's renowned as what? A
she's
contortionist or something?
Well, she started off Theatre de Complicité. She
Pardon?
started
Did
off.
you say that again?
She started off companies all over the place
Theatre
called
companies.
theatre companies called Knee Jerk. Is it called?
Oh, Knee High.
Knee High, and then Theatre. She started off.
She's a great witch.
She's married to a very famous mime guy,
Right,
French guy.
So do you think they don't talk to each other? They just gesture.
And she hasn't been in anything. She's not a screen actress
No.
at all. I mean, they would have used the fact that she's so amazing visually.
And were they 3 versions of her?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought
yeah.
the witches were great. Or the witch.
She was incredible. Yeah, no, I thought that was standout.
Yeah.
I could have just gone with the witches in the end.
Yeah. I tell you something. What's his best friend? What's the name of his best friend?
Banquo.
Banquo.
Yeah.
One of my biggest distractions in the whole film
Oh yeah.
was Banquo's eyebrows.
No.
Check out Banquo's eyebrows. I don't know if someone was having a laugh in the hair and
Usually
makeup
wigs
department.
with
It's
you,
usually
yeah.
wigs. This one was facial. His eyebrows were phenomenally huge. So
Well, that's an amazing thing to go back and look at because I actually can't. You
I
obviously
couldn't
didn't do the
escape
same
them.
to me.
So I thought Denzel did a pretty good job of ploughing around. I'll
Okay.
wait to hear what you think. And I thought it looked amazing. I
did
liked
look
the fact
amazing
that it was
from start to
beautifully
finish.
shot. I liked the fact that it was in that 4:5
Yeah.
aspect ratio.
Yeah.
And I liked the fact that it was clearly set builds made to look like outside. So it maintained a theatricality, I thought.
Yes. Tell us why that ratio is sort of different or unusual or important.
Well,
Because
I mean, in terms of why, Paul Schrader used it in First Reformed. There was that film
what does it
Ida.
convey? I mean,
I
what's...
don't know. I think it concentrates the vision,
Okay.
the visuals. I think
Yeah.
it suggests that it's. I was going to say it suggests that it's less cinematic in scope, but I thought this was an incredibly cinematic.
Yeah, it was.
Macbeth.
Yeah.
I just think it's perhaps a more painterly framing. It's
Okay.
given that they were going for such sort of expressionist
Design,
noir-like
yeah.
kind of angles and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it could just be a pretentious foible. But I do think it focuses the viewer in a different way.
Okay, that's
I think
interesting.
it focuses your attention in a different way.
Because
and it becomes more photographic, almost,
yes.
more analog photographic.
That's what I would have wondered about. I mean, it's useful to have you explain it because I say it all the time because you say it, but I'm never quite sure.
Well, I mean,
why.
when I've seen it in some films, they've used it to kind of to reduce down and focus on a character's internal state.
Yeah.
To use it from the outset, for me, I think it was because it was such a photographic. It was like looking at a series of analog photographs.
It was.
With Macbeth kind of operating within them.
Yeah.
So tell us what you thought of Denzel.
Well, I've never thought I'd say this about Denzel, and I thought he was awful. I thought he absolutely phoned in his performance. Not even that, he wasn't
right.
even phoning it in.
Oh.
I mean, he mangled, and not that this is important, and I was willing to forgive him this, but he mangled his first speech dreadfully.
Oh.
I mean, I know, like, we've all got, it's a film, for God's sake, and you've got to be respectful of the fact it's a film and not Shakespeare's words. But it was a difficult speech, but he lost it, and instead of the director saying, we'll do that again, Denzel,
right.
they let it go. That was one thing. I wouldn't have minded that at all. But then after that, it was almost like he thought, oh, bloody Shakespeare to me. And he just gave me nothing. He was the weakest link. It was Denzel, like, looking down and being fed up, but fed up to be there rather than fed up as Macbeth. Right. I didn't feel any connection between him and Lady Macbeth. And the whole point is that maybe Denzel didn't like the fact that, I mean, she's the power behind the throne. Without... I mean, there's something wrong with her as well, to be honest. When she says, go and collect the weapons, or I've collected the weapons, they change that very slightly. So, I mean, they can do it whichever way they like. I've got no problem with changing it. But they just seemed half-baked. I thought this is a film where all the best bits I've seen in the trailer, the design, I have to say, is stunning, except for Dunsinane Wood comes to the castle, which I thought was absolutely laughable, risible. I mean, okay, he did it. He wanted to say, this is theatre, it's lots of leaves, it's lots of dead twigs. But what, really?
Well, I mean, you could ask the question, why make a film if you're wanting it to be so theatrical?
I mean, it wasn't even good theatrical. It was sort of like, oh, come on.
Right.
I mean, if you're gonna give us theatrical, give us... I've seen it done in school productions better than that.
Yeah. A lot of people like it. I mean, it's got like 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. He's been nominated for an Oscar, for Best Actor. I think there was a lot to be liked in it. I think it doesn't surprise me that it might have struggled to cut through. It's very slow. It's very slow, and I always think of Macbeth as quite a pacey,
I didn't mind the
play.
slowness. It's just that as it took hold and started to... I know the play very well, and the Duncan bit, I thought he was great, the guy who plays Duncan. But as he was murdered, and as that sort of evolved, and Banquo and everything, it was starting to lose me so drastically. I couldn't wait for the witches to come back. Right. She was the only bit of it that I felt, if you're going to have a theatrical production, she fitted into the theatricalness of it beautifully.
Whereas you felt the others were playing for cinema.
Well, yes.
Yeah, and that tugged perhaps against the
And Denzel
location.
to the point where he was mumbling, and then he'd remember, and then he'd look up, and then he'd go back to mumbling like this. He was waiting to do his own film, and he thought, well, I'll just knock this one off. I mean, I adore you, Denzel, but he was not a Macbeth.
I found him quite watchable. I think I liked the fact that traditionally you wouldn't have a black act. I thought it was interesting to have a sort of different interpretation. It gave a different sort of weight and heft to the story, I thought. I mean, the Francis McDormand character, I know what you mean. There was sort of too much awareness that they were in something special, maybe. You know what I mean? They all felt this is a special thing that we're in. And perhaps it could have been played more in... It needed more interior sort of struggle, whereas perhaps it was put out there.
I got hooked up as well on the fact that, and I can't remember his name, so the guy who played Macduff, who we've seen in lots of things, he plays mad preachers and that.
Oh, yes.
I thought he would be much better as Macbeth. Why didn't they cast him as Macbeth?
Right, yeah.
And
so it falls foul of its star system.
It does.
It falls foul of the big names.
And also, I mean, I don't know what... Well, obviously we're doing this review and we don't know what you think, but some scenes that are so sort of... I mean, where Macduff says, all my little ones, his family have been murdered. It was like going to the supermarket. It was I did not feel it.
You know what I was reminded of? I remember seeing King Lear on the BBC. I remember my uncle watching King Lear on the television in the front room. And it reminded me of the days of BBC Shakespeare dramas a little bit.
Yes.
I must admit.
With an astonishing design.
With astonishing set design. Yeah. And I have to say, the set design, I mean, if it wasn't for how beautiful it looked, I think I'd have found it an even tougher watch.
Well, I would too, and my point about, all the best bits we saw in the trailer, I mean, sort of the stairs that she walks down and walks up, in the end I was thinking, oh God, fall. Somebody fall to give it a bit of, I thought
Well, I tell you what there's a struggle with as well, it's a play that's pivots around blood a lot.
Yes.
And to have your blood and the bloodiness of it neutered by, monochrome, sort of black and white.
Now that's very interesting.
It takes a visceral element that's, I think,
Yeah.
is key to the play. I remember seeing it at the theatre where everything that was dramatic happened off stage.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I've come to see this shit.
Yeah.
This is the crowd pleasing bit.
Yeah.
And you want the blood on the hands. You want the blood on the knife.
That's
you
very
want the
interesting
stickiness of
because,
blood.
especially as she's wandering around saying blood, blood,
Yeah,
blood.
and all you can see is black.
Is black. I think that's a very interesting point, and maybe that was affecting me slightly. There was something wrong with
So
her
basically,
portrait.
what we're saying is Denzel and Francis should have been recast with other members of the cast.
Yeah.
It should have been shot in colour.
Yes. And I mean, the design
And it should have been
was good.
widescreen. Jesus, there's another film, Mum.
Yeah, and that's not to say that I don't like, as I've already said it, I love Denzel, I love the play, I love everything.
Well, okay, I personally, well, what would you give it?
46.
You had that number pre-prepared.
But I just was thinking, I suddenly realised by your eyes you were going to ask me that.
Oh, right. 46. Okay. I'd give it more than that. I'd give it about 63.
Oh, so
63.
so
Yeah, I
not
think.
that high.
Not that high, but
I mean,
I was a bit bored, and I'm a Shakespeare
Oh no,
fan.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have been.
And I think with Macbeth, if you can make Macbeth a bit boring, you're struggling a bit.
I mean, yes, exactly. And I don't know. I mean, I just sort of felt the Dunsinane Wood, which is the height of it's the height of every school production. You run in with a twig.
Yes.
Well, this ran in with a twig, several twigs. It was farcical.
And Banquo's eyebrows. Go
And
back
Banquo's
and look at
eyebrows.
Banquo's eyebrows. I've
Also,
never
I
seen
suppose
anything like it.
one of the reasons I've marked it so low is that we've both said enough that we like Shakespeare, but he's so rarely done.
I know.
And Fassbinder played Macbeth in the thing that they did, and I actually thought that was better,
One of the big,
although that was
castings.
criticised a lot. But it was far more, they were far more, and the French,
Yeah.
Marion Cotillard played Lady Macbeth,
Yeah.
they were actually in the roles.
Right.
And whatever you thought of, I mean, this was a film based around the witch.
Yes.
And she was amazing.
She was in it for 5 minutes.
She was in it for 5 minutes in the key scenes. Yeah.
Well, there you go, guys.
Kathryn Hunter's film.
Yeah, there you go. And Banquo's eyebrows.
And Banquo's eyebrows.
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.